Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
One last thing before we get into today's episode. A lot of people ask how they can support the podcast. Well, I have a couple easy ways. The first way is just listen and subscribe. And another thing you can do is go follow the Roughnecks Podcast on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube as well. If you get something out of today's show, then do me a favor. Share it with a friend. If you really want to go above and beyond to support the podcast, then head over to roughneckspodcast.com and get you some of that merch. I appreciate all of the support, but let's get into today's episode. She's already nervous. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. This is episode 1. He just took your sock. 121, I believe. And joining me today is none other than Tech Girl. Sierra McConnell, aka my girlfriend, my lovely girlfriend. Welcome to the Roughnecks Podcast. Usually you're from the outside looking in. Now you're in.
You talked me into it.
Yeah, you're not thrilled about it. You said you would do a Q&A Friday or like a drinking episode, but you weren't too fond of being a guest, and I talked you into being a guest.
Nope.
You're still here doing it?
Nope.
Not like, I mean, yeah, you're still here. He has your sock again.
Prep.
The new mascot of the podcast has been terrorizing us. 1 second. Brooks, oh Brooks.
You are something else.
We just put a cat door in. Do you think the cats will ever figure it out?
Nope, because fat ass wasn't even incentivized by treats.
He was. He just didn't have the like. And I don't think they quite understand. Like all you gotta do is literally walk through it.
He pitifully pawed at the glass. Like,
did you see while you were at
hello?
work the video I sent you? I didn't even get the good one, but he was like staring at me and going and like hitting the door, like, "Come open this thing."
The see-through prison cell.
This is why I have to record downstairs now when it's a normal guest episode. But so I'm gonna kick it off just like I do every episode. You got to do it. Let's see how good you can do. How much you like to do it. Give a background on who you are. Why were you so opposed to doing a guest episode?
I don't really, even though they can't see me, I'm not a big public speaker. And no offense, but I really hope this episode does not get very many views. I hope this is your lowest viewed episode.
I don't think it will be. That's what's funny. Are you going to share it on your social media?
No. I don't need people to know I did this.
Well, it's going to be all over mine.
Background. There's not much
Where you're from.
to me. I was born and raised here in Newark, Hanover. Went to Licking Valley High School, graduated 15. Went to Otterbein University for 4 years. Got my bachelor's degree in nursing. Moved back home and started my nursing career at Licking Memorial Hospital.
There it is. That's all it is to you.
That's about
You left
it.
out like that you were a 3-sport athlete, won state championship in softball, did some of that stuff as well.
No, it was high school stuff.
What do you mean you don't want to live in high school anymore?
No, not particularly.
Why not?
Left that behind when I graduated.
Brooks, you are being obnoxiously loud for no reason. Oh no, not the squeakers.
But what we are going to talk about today is what you just got done doing. So I'm sure you're thrilled about to be able to talk about this after a 12-hour shift. Well, it's almost like 13 by the time you get home. Dude, go lay down. But nursing, what made you decide to go get into, like, why was that your career path that you decided to take?
Well, it wasn't my first, original plan. In high school, I was kind of leaning more towards being a physical therapist, given my history of 3 ACL surgeries throughout high school, all before I graduated. And spent a lot of time with the athletic trainer, Megan. Pretty much dedicated one of her therapist tables. She said, I'm going to dedicate this in your name since, we've spent 3 years of doing therapy together. I don't know, but with my family has a little bit more nursing background. My mom is an LPN, and she's been working at the home health care for 11 years now, 11, 12 years. My aunt is a director of nursing over at Friendship Village, a nursing home. She oversees the in and outs of all the nurses and staff, make sure the residents are cared for, and she's done that for years. My grandma worked at a facility in New Albany, and so I've kind of, just been around it. Kind of got exposed to it pretty young. Both my grandpas they had that with their health issues. I don't know. I just feel like I would have made a bigger impact as a nurse. A little bit quicker school. I didn't really want to be in school for.
Was it 6 years for a physical? At least 6 years.
At least 6. So.
Because I think it went up. Because that was something like when I was in high school, I was talking about, and the trainer at our school was like, it actually, like, the schooling, he's like, I think he went for 6, and I think it's 8 now. I could be.
I mean, you have your doctorate, so
yeah.
So I decided to go, with the bachelor's, and did my 4 years at Otterbein because I knew, I planned on moving back home, so where all my family is at, and I knew Licky Memorial was, once you were employed. Because they're going for, there's a certain accreditation, they get with being a non-for-profit. Once so many or all of your nurses have their BSN, you get a certain accreditation, you get some funding. So I knew they were going to require it within a certain period of time of being hired. So I was like, hey, might as well just go work it out and just get it done.
What's the schooling like? Like, what are the classes that you have to take? Because Ohio Wesleyan doesn't necessarily offer, like, what is your major technically nursing, or is it technically on, like,
it's nursing. So your bachelor's, it's your BSN, Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. So I mean, freshman year, like, at least through Otterbein, all programs might work differently. Based on my ACT score, GPA, all that stuff, you could, before I went to Otterbein, or freshman year, kind of apply. And based on your certain scores, they only let so many people in to the nursing program for spots based on, their clinicals, and, they can only have so many people. So based on my score, I was kind of in the top. I was one of the guaranteed spots. And then, everyone else kind of went through a process to get in. But freshman year is kind of more like prereqs.
Yeah, your general education classes, your
anatomy 1, what are you doing to this thing?
Is yours cutting out too?
Yeah.
Test.
It's kind of real, like, I don't know, high pitch.
How's it sound now? Tell me when to stop. Test. All right.
All right. Yeah.
Is it back to crap?
It sounds the same as before, but.
Oh well. It is what it is, I guess.
Where were we? Schooling. So yes, freshman year is pretty much. Is the recording going to sound like this?
It shouldn't. I think it's just the headphones.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I think that's. I thought I had. I don't know. I can't get this figured out. That sounds a little bit better. So freshman year, basically prereqs.
All right. You're not. Stop it.
You just put it on normal.
This is what you act like.
This child, this is what you act like.
Mhm.
All right, we're back to normal.
You can sleep in the dog kennel tonight.
What's your
Brooks
show,
needs
Joey?
some company. All right, so I'm going to begin.
Back at the pre
For the third time, schooling. Yes, freshman year, prereqs. Man, this is deja vu. Your anatomy one, you have some, whatever. If you have any math, I had to do statistics and just general classes like that. And then you get into sophomore year, and it's split up in semester. Your semesters, and there's the Otterbein. They only do certain classes, certain semesters. So like, fall. So like if someone failed one of the nursing classes fall semester, they had to wait until the next fall semester to resume the nursing
And
program.
then some of those classes too, that was always the worst. Like if you missed it, it filled up before you signed up for it, or you failed it, and it has like you can't even go to the next class sometimes because it has like the prerequisites. You have to pass that class before you can go on to the next class. So
Yeah.
Luckily, I never had to deal with that.
Yeah. So like fall semester, freshman year is kind of like your introduction to nursing. You go through all the basics. You learn the basic assessment and stuff, and then you kind of add on your skills. You have lab checkoffs you have to go do where you have to like score pass, or else you gotta retry, because these are certain like skills you're gonna be doing on patients. You have to be able to do it right, like sterile field catheters. There's all kinds. Then you have your clinicals that you also do on top of your labs.
How long's that?
So it depends. So like, my very first clinical was kind of just like introduction to like, doing health assessments, health histories. So for fall semester, sophomore, so very first nursing semester, first clinical, we went to a nursing facility, residence, and you would be once a week. This one was only 3 or 4 hours, I believe, because we couldn't really do it. Was practicing your manual blood pressures and asking questions, and just kind of getting to know, like getting that bedside manner, kind of just like talking to your patient, kind of getting that part down. So what my resident that I had, she was actually a retired nurse, so so it's pretty cool that she trying talking about how nursing was in. She was probably, I think I remember she was like in her 80s, 90s, so she had a lot. It was really cool to hear how different or how far along all of this technology and everything has come, and all of her stories and stuff like that. So I got pretty lucky with that one. That was pretty fun. And then my next one, which amazing experience, I was at Grant in the TICU, which is the trauma ICU. So got to see a lot of cool stuff. The only thing that sucked was at that point we weren't doing we didn't have very many like our skills checkoffs. So you can't actually do the skill at your clinical until you've been checked off in lab. So there was a lot of stuff I got to watch but couldn't really be hands on. And we had this one who he was in a motorcycle accident, kind of degloved, waist down, so like he had a lot of skin grafts, burns. So they had a lot of dressings. Which
See, your eyes are
love
lighting
wounds.
up, and you're like excited, and I'm like, ew.
I love wounds, and that's why I'm excited for my new job coming up. Getting to do a lot more hands-on with that. So that was really, it was so cool to watch. You still learn a lot watching. I'm just a very big hands-on.
Yeah, if I'm gonna watch it, I want to learn. I want to do it.
I learned a lot better doing hands-on. So that was, I was still super grateful, and I had really great clinical experiences between Grant, Riverside, and we did get to do about 7 weeks at Children's. Which in itself was there's some sad moments there, and that's why I knew peds was not for me even from the beginning. I knew that was not something I personally wanted to do, to handle. Just I know
that's I feel like one of the toughest to deal with, like nurse. I mean, I could be wrong, but like that's some of the toughest stuff. Like just you're trying so hard to help, but it's still, and you try to keep yourself together for your patient and their parents and stuff like that. But there's only sometimes.
Even some of the situations you see, like there was a good handful of kids on the wing I was on where their parents just weren't present their entire hospital stay. They were there for weeks, and just no one came. So I mean, a lot of my clinical and with it being peds and children, like there was a lot we even if we learn it or did it in lab, like it was probably we couldn't do it. So I mean, we got to do some stuff. It was still good learning experience. So a lot of the time we got to just kind of hang out and play with the kids, do that, and so that was enjoyable. That was fun. Yeah, so that's kind of the school you have.
What was your of all the classes that you had to take, and or even your clinicals or whatever? Like, what was your favorite class that you had to?
Favorite? Oh, I don't necessarily. I really liked not the community class, not necessarily the content like the class itself, but the clinicals we got to do. I enjoyed the clinicals for our community nursing. So kind of like when we went, what did we do? 2 weeks we went to Twin Valley, the psychiatric hospital. That was a lot of fun. And it was a little scary. Definitely made me realize, because I've always been very interested in psychology. That was my favorite classes in like high school. My favorite prereqs there at Otterbein. But yeah, definitely knew I didn't want to do that. That probably would have burnt me out pretty quick. I mean, don't get me wrong, in the hospital inpatient setting, you still get your, psych background, stuff, but it's not primarily what you're there treating them for. So, I mean, yeah, they just had us go, right there in like kind of the common area outside the rooms where they're a lot, they come out to watch TV, they have cards. So a lot of time we kind of just sat there and play cards. And you just kind of talked to them. They had you interact with them first. And then the last part of the clinical is when you would go through like their charts, talk to the nurse, kind of look at their meds, stuff like that. And just there's some stuff that I couldn't believe based on talking to them.
But aren't most of them like
I would have never guessed why they were there. Not necessarily. I mean, they're all they they get their segment. They get their medications to kind of help control what's going on. But like, yeah, after like what I had seen or how I had talked to them, like things they said, like about their like all easy going. Like I mean, there was nothing ever crazy happened there. During our clinical, but like the way we talk to them or the way they talk to you and so they talk about, and then reading the chart, you're just like, oh, yeah, never would have guessed that.
That escalated quickly.
Very. I mean, this one gentleman was, yeah, my daughter, I can't wait to, once I'm out, see my daughter, reunite. We have all these plans to do this, this, and this. I can't wait. Like, I really miss my family. Go look at his chart, and he had tried to burn the house down with his family. Like it was stuff like that. You're just like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it was really that's why he's excited.
But I mean, props like the nurses that do that. I mean, there's definitely takes special people to be able to do that, and all the props to them because these patients do need the help. And that's just not a particular area of where I would want to.
I feel like every nurse is like special in their own type of way. Like, we already talked about peds. Now, like those type, like every whatever. Is it field or class? I don't what do you
area
call it?
Type of nursing?
Yeah, whatever it is. There's
words for it.
A special like unique value that they bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So now, on the contrary to that, what was your worst class? Which one did you hate?
Really, I mean, even though I did really well at it, just because it was kind of easy to set pharmacology. Pharmacology.
What is that?
Medicate, like that you have to learn
what medication.
There's two names that are to medication. The brand name, the generic name. How to know both of them. What it's for. How it treats what it's for. So like you had to know the. What are you doing?
None.
Oh, you're over here hitting buttons.
Sounds better now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's because I didn't realize old Brooks flipped it to KTV instead of MC.
All right. Whatever those mean.
I don't even know. I just know MC sounds better.
I'm a pretty great tech girl. I don't even know what that means. Which, speaking of, you got to do your own tech work tonight. No one's here to do picture. Yeah, I'm his personal photographer. All of that. Hold on, babe. Redo that. Okay, you have to. Can you count or let me see what's going on?
1.
Hold on. I messed up there we go. Messed up my headphones. All right.
1, 2, 3. Yep. You guys will see that on the
look great after working 12-hour
the old gram.
shift.
Oh. Yeah, we got to turn some light on if we're gonna do that.
Yeah, we don't want to put the same picture. You can just put a picture of us or something. Okay, where were we at? Oh,
First class.
Yes, first class. It was just, it was just a lot of very straightforward. It's very easy to study and stuff. It was just one of those things that wasn't interesting to me.
Just kind of boring and bland.
It's basically, it was just oh my god, so many flashcards. Get into the pharmaceutical class, how it, the actual, how it affects the body, what it does. Your metoprolol is your beta blocker, so it does this to these receptors in your body to do this to the heart, the kidneys, so that it affects the blood. It was.
You lost me at the first word,
yeah,
whatever
I figured,
that was.
but that's how it is. It was stuff like that, and how to know side effects, adverse effects. Certain ones have certain things you get to kind of counteract what's going on. It's that was probably my least favorite class. Even though it was the one I did the best, probably the one I did the best in.
Well, I feel like you're good at memorizing.
So it was just one of those very straightforward,
It is or it isn't.
Yeah.
You didn't have to
it's not this.
go through, 5x plus 6c equals I minus 17 and a half quarter 16th.
Yeah, it wasn't your general nursing in-class questions where it's select all that apply or which answer is the best. Where there's some that are, you got a couple that are right, but which one's better?
I don't even like that. I hate that because I feel like it's not always there. It depends on the person.
Person situation, so yeah, NCLEX is, you have your multiple choice, you have the select all that apply or which one is more true, stuff like that.
I don't like that. I'm gonna get different headphone jacks.
Yeah, this one keeps cutting in and out.
Well, it doesn't help that we're have to be close. I want to get longer ones, which I thought these were longer. They weren't. What is the day-to-day like as a nurse? I know, obviously, probably not every day is the same. You got different stuff every single day. You might have a few of your patients that, you see, but then that only lasts for a few days, and then you have maybe another, but what's the day-to-day like as a registered nurse?
Like the emphasis there.
Registered.
Prevention, you arrive, you have your charge nurse.
Because you work 7 to 7.
Yes.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
I do.
You used to work nights, but ever since we've known each other, it's been 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
I did night shift my first 2 years, and then February of last year. So it's been a little over a year now that I've switched to.
So you used to work 7p
to 7A, yep.
And now you work 7A to 7p.
Yep.
Which do you like?
I like the day shift. I like the day shift a lot better for my own person, sleep, health. I just on that night shift routine, which at first coming out of college, you're still on that. Stay up late, to study, or I'm out all night drinking,
now
sleeping.
It's 9 o'clock, and we're like, are we going
sleep
to
all
bed?
day, and so coming out of college, that was pretty easy to, and you're like, oh yeah, man, I want to make more money. You have that shift diff and all that. But it definitely catches up to you. Winter, I didn't mind it so much because, what is there to do in the winter? I could work, I could sleep. The summer is when it was like, oh man, it's nice out. I want to stay out and enjoy the sun, but I just work 12 hours. I want to sleep. And just trying to flip your sleep schedule back and forth to try and accommodate to certain events or plans or, to have somewhat of a social life. And no matter how much sleep, I could sleep for 12 hours. because I'd have nothing that day or the next day. Didn't matter. I was still
You're
like,
still
it's like I had
tired.
no sleep. And it was hard. And, I'd come home and I'd try to only sleep for a couple hours if I didn't have to work that night. Or if I was off 2-3 days in a row. But then it's like, for some reason, I was still up all night. It was just the most chaotic.
Yeah, I feel like that'd
which-
be the hard part is your days off. Trying like you're going to be up all night every night just because
Mhm.
you're kind of like, yeah, you might fall asleep for a couple hours, but you're
just-
still
just
up.
felt like I had no energy, by the end of that year. So I made the switch to day shift, which the only thing that ever kept me from doing that was, everyone was like, oh, because you think about the shift if you think about that pay cut. But in the grand scheme of things, I was like, my energy level, my health, my schedule, it's worth it to me. And I don't even notice. I mean, I don't even notice it. Like I'm, glad I finally didn't let that hold me back. So yes, I like day shift a lot more than I did night shift.
Day to day.
Day to day though, I work 7 to 7. You get there, beginning of shift, the charge nurse makes the assignments, you get your patient, you get papers kind of printed out with the kind of like basic overlook of them. You go out, find the nurse had the patient all night. You go to the room, do your bedside report on that patient. That way, if there's anything, that was maybe missed, report the patient's a part of that. That way they can hear, that we're talking about them, what we're saying, what's going on. Because sometimes patients might forget a thing or two, or we might forget to mention something in a report, and they be like, "Oh, hey, no, I did this at this," and you're like, "Oh, yeah." So it's very important to include them. It is their care, their right to kind of know the whole deal. After that, I usually go log on to the computer, assign myself to my patients, overlook the previous doctor's notes, just see if there's anything in their history or anything that got missed in the report by chance. Overview the patient's history, look at any fluids, you look at their medications. Normally the medications are kind of done, and there's a couple big med passes, normally morning and night, 9 a.m., 9 p.m. So you got your big morning med pass. Check, make sure any your diabetic patients, check their sugars. There's a lot of stuff. I look at their orders. Or do I have any dressing changes? Make sure all the orders are being followed through, like the heart monitor. And there's just so many little things you got to go through. And doctors around, and you start getting new orders. And but the basic is you get report, look over everything, make sure you got all the details on your patient. That way, nothing's a surprise. That their care goes smoothly. Your day goes a lot smoother when there's no surprises, unnecessary surprises popping up. And that way, when doctors or family calls in, you can answer all their questions. Once you do your med pass, then you get a chart, so much to chart. That's,
What's your favorite part?
not really. I personally like to be in my patient's room, even just sitting there talking to them or, whatnot. I hate staring at the computer all day. It's a very important aspect of the job, but definitely my least favorite. Because, when you look at that, that's what doctors look at, the notes that are put in, those are very important in facilitating, the care during the stay and after. So a lot of those notes are used for, insurance, like, the PT notes for insurance, stuff like that. And then, answer any doctor's questions, make sure all their tests are scheduled that they needed. And it's basically just a continuous, medications chart, take care of your patients, do any of your dressings. Then at the end of the day, get a report to the next person coming on, make sure they have all the information they need, set them up for success, and set the patient up for success.
What's the typical, what's a normal amount of patients to have?
So typically they try to make it like wonders, try to keep it anywhere from 4 to 5 for safety. That way you're not overloaded, overwhelmed, patient safety. But as of late, that is very hard to accommodate.
Well, I feel like, and that's not just your hospital, that's across the country.
And not even just in hospitals, nursing homes.
They're all
very
short-staffed.
It's that, and just a lot of people got burnt out, and I went looking for work from home. They're like, man, like
I feel like was it from COVID when the burnout started?
There was a big burnout with that, because during that time, that's just like you're kind of like balls to the wall. Like
Mhm.
there was no stopping. I mean, mainly it's a thing that, everyone was learning as we were going. There's always something new popping up, and it was just, even everyone, including doctors, you're learning as you're going.
And I feel like that was tough as a nurse. Like, if you had a COVID patient, like, you're getting asked all these questions by the patient, and it's like, I'm telling you this today, but like tomorrow I might be telling you something different.
Yeah, like we have a thing. It's called best practice. People review like, 1 month this could be the best practice for this in any medical, not just COVID.
Mhm.
And another month it could be something could be found that no, this is best practice. So things were always changing. Things were always, you have the strength, it's always evolving. So it's definitely, you're kind of working with what you had as you were going. And it wasn't even that we were short staffed during that point. That was just census was through the roof. So a lot of people got burnt out kind of towards the end of that huge last surge that we had. And then after that, it just, even though those were dying down, it was like just the general patient census. It just, it just goes up. It just felt like it was never coming down. A lot of people left. A lot of people, wanted to work from home or, went to doctor's offices. And for some reason, I don't know, because I was just talking to my manager the other day about it because of how short staffed we are right now. And it's not even like, anything's bad at the hospital to where we should be this short staffed. It was just, with everyone leaving, no one was applying. No one was wanting to come in.
That's the crappy part. If you can have a turnover rate, but if you don't have anybody coming in and you have people leaving, it doesn't matter like what industry it is. Like, it's not gonna go well.
They had, I think she said maybe 1 or 2 RNs apply in the last 6 months.
Damn. And that's within the last, that's within graduation.
Just this past 2 weeks, we've had 4 or 5 nurses leave. So yeah, it's been, especially, weekends are just insane. And then you have your, call offs. You usually have at least 1 or 2 call offs. I mean, so this past weekend, Saturday morning, started off 10 patients. Felt bad because I'm like, what's your name again? Here's your meds. By the time I'm done with my rounds, it might be 2 or 3 hours before I see you again.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I was barely in there, barely was able to, know what was going on with my patient. I mean, I knew the important things. I knew what I needed to know, but I didn't know the extra to give them, the extra care or to make sure everything was in place or that, everything was done that needed to be done. That way night shift didn't have, extra things on their plate to do on top of what they needed to do during their time. So it was very hard. Today was a little bit better. I had seven patients, so a little bit more. It's, good, but not good that I've kind of gotten used to, being able to manage 7 to 8 patients.
Shouldn't be used to it, but
not too bad.
Yeah, it's tough for, like, and you look at, imagine like a classroom with kids, but you had to give them all lunch. Like, anytime you feed kids, almost, it's kind of like that. I feel like that's a similar analogy of, like, you're trying to, you want to get this done, you're helping this person, but then you have to, like, turn around and help this person, and then this person needs something, and that person needs something, and you're just going back and forth that you don't actually, like you said, spend the time with your patient. And I feel like, as being in the hospital, like, if you're in the hospital, obviously it's probably like you're not necessarily happy. Like, it sucks. You don't want to be there.
Oh no, you definitely have those that are like, don't want to be here. You have the ones that are dragged there by family. You have ones that came in thinking it was going to be a quick fix, and they end up being admitted for 18 days, and they're just, and it's like, came here for help. I'm trying to help, trying to do my job. I understand. I wouldn't want to be here for 18 days either. But let's try and make the best of it.
Well, that's one thing too. Like, as a nurse, you're not just like taking care of them. You're almost like physically taking care of them. Like, you're also trying to help like them mentally. Some of them who aren't, in a good place, or being an asshole, or like you're almost a counselor as well as a nurse.
Oh, yeah. There's so many situations come across where, I just kind of, I feel bad. I almost feel like, like I'm neglecting not that I'm neglecting, but, there's times where I'll just kind of sitting there with the patient, if they're very anxious, freaking out about something, if they have issues at home, and kind of sit there. I'm like, talk to me about it. Like, we can see if there's resources that we can find, for when you go to, help with this issue. When you go home, you have patients that are like, I can't afford this medication because I got to pay. It's either my medication or groceries. And, so you got to get a hold. There's a lot of extra things. Like, I'm always in contact. We have social work and case managers in-house that kind of help, with that stuff, with resources and figuring out ways to, again, set them up for success. That way they can, work on their health and, not be in on one. We have so many patients that are in probably almost every month or every other month, or even they'll leave and be back the next week for the same thing because they weren't able to get what they needed at home.
Well, and like the reality is I mean, we live in Newark. Like, you're gonna come across a lot of people who aren't financially in a great place, and I mean, in today's world, a lot of people are honestly struggling a little bit financially. People that were living comfortable, I would say, can't necessarily live as comfortable as they used to. Like that rainy day fund where, people used to, maybe it wasn't much, but like your car broke down or something, or you broke your arm, you got to go to the hospital and that kind of stuff. Like, it's hard anymore today. So I feel like, and we're in Newark, so you got a lot of financially unstable people in the area.
Yeah. And getting equipment, like my primary floor, I usually work on, we do the hip replacements, knee replacements. And so we do a lot of work with the social work and insurance and family, figure out, what's the next step based on my PT. Do they need to go to a facility, home health? And, a lot of the big issue we arise with is insurance. Oh my God, the biggest pain in my ass. Insurance companies, they like to, not long ago, I felt so bad. I had this one who had a very, very hard time getting up out of bed by herself. She needed assistance with the leg, due to pain. And once she got up and kind of moving, then she moved well. And so based on the PT eval, they have to put in a certain number, how many feet they walked. And if it's, a certain amount, even though that person cannot, if they live alone at home, she lived at home by herself. She was in her 70s, no family in the area. She needed assistance, moving her legs, getting out of bed, getting her stuff, needed help getting dressed, needed help, with certain things. She wasn't at the level to where she could do it by herself. She needed to go to a rehab facility for, about 2-3 weeks of therapy to where she would be safe at home by herself. Well, like I said, once she got up moving, she moved well. She walked well. But all that initial stuff she can't do, just because she walked a certain number of feet, her insurance company denied her and said they weren't going to pay for it.
Because they assume they just look at the number.
They look at that number.
They just look at the number and go, oh, that's good.
They don't look at, she lives home alone, has no family. She needs assistance with all this, but she can move well. But since she can move well, they, suggested, why doesn't she just pay for someone to, the home health aide that can be there 24/7?
Because it's not cheap.
Exactly. They said, or she can pay out of pocket to go to the facility. So she ended up paying a few $1,000s because she was that scared to go home alone out of pocket.
Out of her retirement.
It was out of her pocket.
Yeah. That's
to get the care she needed.
Do you see that kind of stuff with insurance a lot?
Oh yeah.
What's the worst insurance company that you have to deal with? Or do you don't really deal with them?
I don't. That's more social work. I just because I do the discharge planning. I help with when I discharge them, I know where they're going, I know what's going on. So I just kind of know that. I mean, every insurance company has their own, what they're going to pay for, what they will. It's all different across. So there's some areas where some are worse and others are not. But that's a big pain in the butt with getting patients things they need.
We were kind of talking about this the other day because you had to work this weekend, and this weekend was Lost Lands. And I wanted to ask, what is take COVID out of the equation, just ignore COVID. What is the craziest time of year, where you get the most, maybe you just see a lot more visits? Is there a specific holiday or event that is in the area like Lost Lands? Is it what would you say is one of the bigger increase in visits?
There's kind of multiple times. Definitely holidays, huge influx of food boluses, people eating too much food too fast that they get stuck and they have to come in because it has to be removed. Kind of like when it starts getting cold, got the flu, which we haven't had as much the last couple of years due to, masks and all that. Is kind of different. And a lot of waves, but I was holidays, winter, in the summer.
How many people do you guys usually get that fall down because they're putting up Christmas lights? Is that like a common thing?
No, that's not too common.
I was hoping it was.
Honestly, the biggest thing we've had this summer, I get all these cute little ladies coming in that live at home independently, like in their 80s and 90s, and they fall and break their hip because they're out pulling weeds or doing that kind of thing. Get on ladders to do stuff, and I love seeing how independent and how feisty these.
That's gonna be you.
Women are.
That is gonna be you. You're gonna fall and break or tear your ACL for the 17th time.
It would be the 4th. Thank you.
Well, by the time you're 80, it might not be. You hope it is.
My favorite I ever. This was kind of more towards the beginning of the year, and she was elderly. She fell and broke her ankle, and she had surgery. And her kids were all there when in the room when she was coming back from surgery. They're all sitting on the couch, and she's still a little loopy from the anesthesia and pain medication they were giving her downstairs, and her kids were all sitting there. And as soon as they wheel her in, they're like, "Oh, Mom, we're all here. We heard everything went great. We're glad, you're back up here." And she just looks at them, opens her eyes just a little bit, and just flips them the double bird and goes right back to sleep. And I came back.
How old did you say she was?
She was in her late 70s. And literally just hard double bird at them, and they all just started laughing. They knew she was just a little spitfire. So that was kind of towards the end of my shift. She had a late surgery, so she didn't wake up too much towards the end of my shift. So I was back the next day, got my same group back and a lot more awake. And I said, "Hey," "what do you remember about coming back from surgery yesterday?" She said, "Not much. I just slept." I said, "You don't remember your kids greeting you in your room when you come back?" She said, "No." I said, "Oh, you're going to have to ask them what happened." She said, "Wow, what did I do?" She's like, "Are they mad at me?" I said, "Well, you came back in and, I told her," and she would just start laughing. She's like, "Oh, they'll get over it."
What's the typical turnaround after from surgery? How quick are they usually out the door?
Typically, you have knees are a little bit quicker. They're usually go the next day in 1 or 2 days after surgery. And then there's some that do end up staying. Maybe they're not doing well with therapy and they need to go to a facility. It all depends on timing because insurance companies don't run pre-certs over weekends, and you always get the ones that get stuck on holiday. The 4-day holiday weekends. But typically about 1 to 2 days, and that's if they're doing well and going home, or if they're going to a facility, it's anywhere from about 3 or 4 days, mainly just because of insurance purposes. And then hips, usually like to keep them for 2 or 3 days.
How quick are they up and walking?
Same day.
That's what I thought. That's because Clayton, that's what he I don't know, he changed his career path 20 different times. He was going to be a nurse, and then he was going to be a teacher, then he was going to be an electrician, and now he's an electrician. But yeah, I remember him telling me talking about it, how they were up that same day walking.
Same day. So therapy's in the hospital until about 3:30, 4 o'clock. So on the late surgeries, therapy doesn't come do their eval until the next morning. But they need to go to the restroom, everything like that. We'll get them up, or I at least try to get them up. The quicker they get up and get moving, the better they are in the long run. With pain and anything like that, the more you get that joint moving, a lot better therapy and healing, and just goes a lot smoother.
I'm going to give you the opportunity because usually I won't allow you to do this, but give me your. If I throw up my dinner, I'll let you. I'll let you do it. But if I throw up my dinner, I'm sorry. Give me the grossest story that you got from being at the hospital.
God, how do I pick? There's way too many.
Some of the ones that you've also told me about, the people that come in with things stuck inside of their butthole.
Yeah, that's pretty. The objects are the most interesting.
What's the most interesting object that you've seen?
I don't know. We can talk about the hairspray can, the piece of a squirt gun, the cucumber, the bottle of vanilla that you bake with. You can see how much vanilla was left in there. Or we could talk about the light bulb.
What? Did it break?
No.
Whoa! What kind? Like a regular light bulb?
Mhm.
Okay, that's. I don't. Is impressive the right word? It's gross, but
Interesting.
interesting. Is that oh Jesus, the amount of who all those things that you listed. The only one that like I hear and I feel like it. I don't want to say makes sense, but like it's more logical than most of the other ones.
None of this makes sense.
No, none of it makes sense. But the cucumber is the only thing that I feel like is like okay.
That's
but
got
like,
the funniest story. The patient stated they fell on it at the grocery store.
and it slid all the way in.
And the surgeon said, "Oh, that's interesting. One, why were your pants down at the grocery store? And two, I've never seen a cucumber stand straight up. And I've never had anyone just, fall and land right on it perfectly like that."
If he'd have said at home, I feel like he would have had a better chance. Because then it like, but then you saying at the grocery store, then you have a hole in your pants. That's strange. But you want to tell the grossest story?
I don't know how to pick. I mean, I do a lot of gross things.
Pick one of your favorites, because I know
there's no favorites. All things I gotta do.
Give me a
job.
unique story, something crazy, a unique story. Why don't you just tell me about the guy, that one dude that gave you all the gifts? Story with with your dad.
So, was most of you seen when Cole posted the T-shirt fundraiser back in February? My dad, wasn't feeling very well. He went and had some lab work done and stuff, and graciously, I never asked for it, but I was talking about it at work one day because I was kind of like, like, what should we do? Like, what the next step? Like, the doctor's office can't get this stuff scheduled for a few weeks. And I mean, like, the way he was feeling, his health was just declining pretty rapidly that last week of February there. And so, one of the doctor or two of the doctors that had kind of overheard, they're like, like, have them come in, they can get this done, like, ASAP downstairs. Have him admitted, like, I can do this test, this scope, this stuff tomorrow. That way he doesn't have to wait 6 months. Like, this isn't something that should be, pushed off for a few weeks, and I get like that's a huge part, like scheduling outpatient stuff, going through doctor's offices. Like, there's so much delay in care for people that it's just sad. Because I mean, if he would have waited, the turnout could have been a lot worse. So anyway, he got in and did the scan, and turns out he got diagnosed with aggressive large B-cell stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma at a young age of 46. But they were able to get the diagnosis, and the chemo started pretty quickly. Within the 9 days he was in the hospital after all of his tests and stuff. He went through a few months of chemo and PET scan. Now we're kind of waiting on the next step because the last PET scan showed 2 new spots, but waiting to see if it's a lymphoma coming back or not, and kind of going for the next step there. But anyway, 2 weeks after the diagnosis, after my dad was discharged, I had a gentleman who got a new diagnosis, very hard to come to terms with. He had an issue with one of his he was in and out of the hospital all the time for this, and just kind of never, it finally got caught based on a scan that they ordered for him, and it was a very aggressive kind of form of lung cancer. So he was just, he's kind of the same age. He was I believe 46, 47, same age as my dad. And he was, everyone's like, oh, he's grumpy, and I'm just like kind of right there. I'm like, I know something. I've been going through this. My dad's going through this. So I sat in there and talked to him, and he cried it out. All of this, he just was scared. That's his anger is coming from fear. So I kind of tried to reassure him. It's like, a couple weeks ago, went through this whole process with my dad because he was worried about how long it was going to take. Because he's like, in the past, it's taken me months to get into this doctor and, stuff. And he's like, there's just, there's no point in doing this treatment. Like, it's just, that's going to happen. And he's like, I'm going to die. And I said, well, you're in the hospital. So I said, we can get this, oncology consulted. I said, when they got consulted for my dad, they saw him, they did the biopsies, they got the diagnosis. I said, they started chemo the next day. I said, things actually move pretty fast. I said, let's just have some faith. It's a big part of nursing. A big part of our job is being our patient's advocate. Making sure they're heard, making sure their concerns are addressed, making sure they have what they need, trying our best to get everything that they need for their health. And, I eat, all right. I DoorDashed some, it was a weekend, so I was, DoorDashing some Tim Hortons donuts. And I ordered one extra for him. I took him in a donut. And apparently, that was the biggest thing to him. He was like, oh my God, like, apparently that was like, to him, that was like the nicest thing anyone's ever done for him. And I'm like, oh, it was just a donut. Like, I had an extra. It's, not that big of a deal. To me, it didn't seem like it. But, things ended up actually, going a lot quicker. And, he kind of started coming down. And, and I was there. I had him most of the time. He was there in the hospital. And his wife was super sweet as well. Anyway, he got to eventually go home. Had all of his treatments set up and everything. And about a week later, I was at work, and his wife showed up with flowers, a card for me, and he put a little gift card in. It was like, what did his note say? He wrote a very sweet, it made me cry, very sweet message in his card. But then the other one said, oh, donuts are on me next time. But then what really he wrote a card for my dad, someone he had never met, but knew, wrote a card to my dad, and my dad ended up showing it to me. And it was very, very sweet. And my dad even teared up. Two guys who've never met but are able to share, kind of their feeling. Like, I just kind of felt like that middle person, kind of connected them. I gave them each like each got someone to kind of, give each other a little bit of hope, a little bit like, all right, like, I'm not the only one. It's scary, but to know you got someone else going through it, unfortunately, that is a huge reason, even with all the burnout, all the hard days, that's one of the biggest things that just keeps you going as a nurse, are those moments, those patients that you are able to have an impact. Even the smallest thing, sitting there and listening for 5 minutes, letting them cry for 5 minutes, getting them one chocolate dip donut from Tim Hortons. That's why I love what I do.
Well, that's the thing too, is like, you could do that, and they might not ever, give you a gift card, pay it. I don't want to say pay it back, but like, give you flowers and do that stuff. But like, they might, be at home talking to their kids, they're talking to their significant other or something about, oh, this nurse, she was all like, you never know the impact that you're leaving on your patients, and you always want to try and make it a positive one. And I give you a lot of credit for that. I know it. That you came home. Well, I remember you coming home, and I'm like, what? What is all this stuff? He just had a ton of stuff, but it is probably what keeps you going. It gives you it's part of your why you do what you do.
And I don't, I don't sit there and try like, oh, want to make the biggest impact I can. Like, I just try and do what I can, even if it's, getting a small, like, someone's having a hard day in the hospital. I'm like, oh, you want some ice cream? Like, we can go for a walk. Like, just like I try and do like something little for someone. Just, no one wants to be sick. No one wants to be in the hospital. No one wants to be poked and prodded, get lab results, all this. I understand that people aren't just mean or, they're sick. They're not feeling well. We're seeing them at their worst. This isn't who they are while they're there in the hospital. So, it was nice going with my dad. When I went with my dad to his treatments, I would run into that gentleman here and there, and I was able to, see how he was doing and stuff like that. So, and every time I saw him, how's your dad doing? It was never, and even when when I had him in the hospital talking, when he had all this fear and all this anger about this new diagnosis, he kept trying to apologize. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry your dad's going through this. I'm so sorry. I'm like, you're going through it too. I'm like, you do not apologize. Like, I'm just, I want you to know you're not alone. Like, I know what you're going through. I know, like, it's not easy. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be angry. There's a lot of unknowns, but you just got to take it one day, one step at a time.
So it's okay to be angry sometimes?
Yeah, don't.
I'm just kidding.
Stretching it there.
I'm just kidding. But you got yourself a new little job now. So what do you like? So we talked about obviously what you've been doing, but like, what are you going into now?
So I decided to try and go new setting. I've been here at the hospital doing the work for 3 years. The orthopedic surgeons aren't too happy that I leave, but due to staffing and stuff, I'm going to stay at the hospital and do 90 days, get some new people in, get some training done, that way they're not just kind of left stranded there. But I've accepted a job still with Licking Memorial, still at the hospital, but at the home health care. And I decided to transition to this because I'll still be taking care of the same patients I have now in the hospital. But the next step, the patients I have, I discharge them home with our home health care a lot. And so to kind of take care of them in the next part of their, therapy, their rehab, their next part of their health. And another reason, like I said in the beginning, I love wounds. Don't know why. There's just one area I love in the hospital, but we have a wound team, so there's not much. I mean, I do, you have your daily dressing changes, but you're following the orders, what's going on. You have wound vacs in the hospital per inpatient policy. We're only allowed to look at them and assess them, make sure the suction, everything's maintaining, it's working properly, but we don't get to apply them or do anything like that. And so doing the home health care, I'll actually get to do more hands-on with that, learn more about that. I kind of just want to learn more about something I'm interested in. And I was talking to the manager over there, and the hospital is going to be doing a new wound certification through the hospital. Because normally you can get your wound certification online and pay for it and stuff, but if you qualify and get accepted into it, it's paid for. So they have me. I'll be applying for that, and so I'll be going into patients' homes and doing what they need at home, dressings, anything like that, and it'll be a little bit different going into their homes, and but I'll be doing 410s. There'll be a little bit different schedule.
I feel like there's a lot of pros in it for you, which I didn't necessarily fight you on it at first. I wanted to make sure you were making a rational decision. But the hours will be better for you in the long run of your life, and I feel like you're going to be doing something that you, not that you don't enjoy what you do now, but something that you find more interest in.
And I'm excited because, like I said, I love the one-on-one, the getting to know my patients. Whereas right now, I try and get to know them, but it's then I don't know, I don't keep up with them or, see how they're doing after. So with this, they're usually on with the home, like at the hospital, it's like a few days. With the home health care, we're seeing them for weeks, months, depending until, what we need to do is done. So, I'll definitely really get to know and build a little bit more relationships, or rapport with my patients. Cause my mom does the home health. I'll be working with my mom. Actually, we'll see how that goes. Shout out Stacy. She's excited. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to tell everyone that I'm your daughter. No, it'll be a lot of fun, but,
Doesn't everybody already
she
know?
still has patients and stuff that apparently, she talks about as proud mom, all this stuff about sports, but they would follow along. Our patients would follow along with our sports. They would have our like newspapers article or like stuff like that, and they still have a few patients that still do their services, and so they've known me for a while or known about me, and I don't really know them, but there's still patients that keep up with her, keep in contact with her, and just let them know how they're doing. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited for getting to know them a little bit more, and
Actually build a relationship.
during my time with them, it's just me and them. It's not me, in the hospital with the 5 other patients needing something, and doctors calling, and I'm like, oh, like okay, I know we're in a good conversation, but I had to go. Stuff like that. Like I'm there. I'm with this
A
patient.
little less chaos.
One-on-one. I can focus on them, kind of thing.
You're excited for it.
I am.
Soon enough, you'll be doing it. But you ready to move on to the final segments of the podcast?
Let's do it.
I got a question that I ask all of my guests,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what's coming because you listen. If you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be? Other than find coal sooner.
I don't know if I would have told my 16-year-old.
Well, that's kind of rude.
Yeah, see, I knew this would be a question, yet still here I am having a hard time figuring
It's
out
a
what I
hard
would have
question
told myself.
because somebody threw it back. I think it was Robbie one time threw it back at me, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, you asked the question and you don't even answer them yourself at the time.
it's my
So,
podcast. I asked the questions."
Long ago. It feels like it was yesterday.
That was almost 10 years ago for you.
Shut up. It really hasn't been that long. I feel like it was just yesterday. 16-year-old self. This is when I was having my second ACL surgery. I tell myself to build some better quads so I don't tear my ACL 3 times.
Well, you already have 2. Might as well just get the third one knocked out after that.
Oh goodness. No, I think I would, just like enjoy the moment. Don't wish to become an adult so fast. So, yeah, like the independence is nice, but man, it's
Bills are not nice.
yeah, you're just not learning what
Yeah.
you've been here.
Well, and alone.
I mean,
like,
I had a little bit, and I got more than just that bill.
well, I had my phone bill. Obviously, I paid for my gas. Apple Music, because I gotta have music.
I do wish I would have. The one thing I wish I could tell myself is educate yourself about student loans.
Oh yeah,
Those are not talked about enough before going to college.
no. Here's the thing. Not even just educate yourself about college itself, and then if you decide to take the college path, educate yourself financially what it's going to be like.
Set yourself up for success.
Honestly,
for when you graduate college.
I wish I would have educated myself financially in general a lot better, because like managing money, like we can all manage money, or like investing, that kind of stuff, because I got you a little bit into the crypto world, and
I haven't checked that. No.
it's not worth checking right now. It's kind of disappointing to even look at, but
yeah, I wish I definitely would have been a little bit more educated on that. And then just wish I wasn't so stubborn, because a big part of it was I'm like, oh, Otterbein has an amazing I'll have amazing experiences. Like I want to get away from home a little bit. Like, I have to. I need to do it. No, I didn't. I would have had, don't get me wrong, I loved my time there. love all my friends. Well, a lot of my closest friends were people I met in college, and my clinicals were, everything was amazing. There's nothing, about it that I'm like, oh yeah, no, it wasn't worth it. But financially,
Mm,
I would have
that's exactly how I
stayed
am.
home and worked while I went to school and not have the debt that I do.
That's exactly how I am with.
That is the only, I guess, regret per se that I have about that.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of both the same about our college experience. Like, we don't regret what we did, but we wish we would have done it differently.
Yeah, it wasn't
Like, I don't regret going to a
worth how
Wesleyan.
much.
Yes. Was it worth 80, 60,
Right.
$100,000? Or was it worth 20 at home?
Mm.
But yeah. And I hate to tell you this, but you're still stubborn. Anyway, this
No, I
is
am
going
not
to move
stubborn.
us into the
Nor do I make impulsive decisions. I am patient and I think everything through.
Okay, anyway, this moves us into the best segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is the point in the episode where I allow the guests to give the Roughnecks listeners a little inspirational bump to set the tone for their week as they listen on Monday morning. So what does Tech Girl, aka Sierra, aka Tech Girl, there we go, is that better for you, have for Motivation Monday?
AKA Roughnecks personal photographer, aka
Fine, you can start running the social media
I do a
too.
lot. No, thank you. I do a lot for you.
You do, I appreciate it.
All right, you ready for my quote?
Motivation Monday, let's see what you got.
Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
Ooh. Where'd you hear that at?
I read it once. No, it's a Winston Churchill
Is it?
quote. Mhm.
I like that.
The part that sticks with me though is that because my personality is quite like, yeah, you need everything to be perfect. But so I struggle with that part.
Stubborn.
Anyway, if you let me speak, you wanted me to be a guest. The one sentence that sticks with me is that the failure is not fatal.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about it. You've heard it how many times on this freaking podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Your failures don't define you, but you'll learn, and you're going to learn more from those than you ever will your successes.
I had a second quote in case, that I had options. And God, where did I put it? Oh yeah, it was God, I'm tired. This long day's video. Failure is the opportunity to begin again or to start over again intelligently.
Yeah.
Yeah, failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligently.
And that's the thing. If you start looking at your failures as a learning experience, it's really tough to do in the moment. It's really tough to do. But how many of your, times that you messed up as a 16-year-old or even last week or whatever, do you look back at and you go, man, I'm never going to do that again. You learn from it. You don't want, in the moment, it's really hard to be like, okay, this is a learning experience. I didn't mess up here. It's just a learning experience. No, we're going to be pissed. We're going to be pissed off. We're going to be like, what the hell is going on? But eventually, hopefully, that's also the thing. If you recognize that you messed up, if you recognize it's a failure, you're already learning from it just from the recognition. If you realize it's wrong, if you realize you messed up, you're learning. And
that's a huge part in building your character and building yourself personally. Just realizing and accepting that as a failure, not making an excuse and using it. That's how you build yourself.
Yeah. Thanks. It went longer than you thought it was going to go. You were like, how long does it have to be? And I was like, give me at least a half hour. And we went an hour.
Yeah, and I'm ready for bed.
Yeah, it is late on Sunday night. We're recording this the night before it comes out, but we're getting it out. So I'll go edit this while you go take a shower and go to bed. And but thank you for coming on the Roughnecks podcast. We will have you back on for 2 more episodes at the very, very least. I feel like I should just give you guys your own segment on the podcast.
No.
You guys just you and somebody else. You guys we can combine two
Me,
podcasts.
Michelle, and Tina.
No, that is a terrible idea.
Why not?
That is a terrible idea.
Come on.
Will I be your guys' tech boy?
We'd have the most viewers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. You know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna do our special Hold My Beer episode with you, Michelle, and Tina, and we'll see how it goes.
All right.
But if it gets more, if it's in the top 5 episodes, I'll let you guys have your own segment, or we'll put something on the table. So, Shell and Tina, if you're listening, because I bet you they listen. If you guys are listening, we're making it happen. But until Friday, you guys know the deal. Life is hard, and it's gonna knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let the bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks, out.
Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. If you like today's episode, then be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with a friend if you got some value from it. Head over to social media and follow the Roughnecks Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Don't forget to get you some of that merch by heading over to roughneckspodcast.com and subscribe to the newsletter while you're there. See y'all next week. Roughnecks, out.